Time, time is an abstraction that we deduce from change, or from the phenomenon of change. That is a quote from the scientist and philosopher of science, Julian Barber. He doesn't believe that time properly exists. It's not a realm that exists, say, separate from another realm that we might call the eternal realm or the transcendent realm. Time, and I'm bringing this up because it factors directly into our discussion about Heraclitus logos, Heraclitus flux, the eternal flux. Change is an inherent or an innate characteristic or quality of the eternal. So, for Heraclitus, this flux or source of eternal and infinite energy, or whatever you want to call it, pulsation, eternal pulsation, or I know that's how it's been described by tantrics, for example, in their understanding of Maya, which is, as we talked about in one of our previous videos, means quite the opposite of what it means for a lot of Orthodox Vedic schools. It doesn't mean illusion. It has to do with the power that brings about manifestation, and that brings about differentiation within the process of manifestation. So, for Heraclitus, this flux, this process of change, and this ongoing phase change from emergence to submergence and back to emergence, is just reality itself. It is being with a capital B. Which means that manifestation is a process that has always occurred and will always continue. This flux has always been spinning out new and different forms. And by forms here, I'm not describing the transcendent forms of Plato. I'm talking about just basically shapes, right? Different types of beings, different types of objects, with different appearances, different descriptions. So it's like a forge that's just this infinite forge that's constantly putting out, and producing and manifesting new and different shapes and forms. Now, so what that means is we don't have an eternal realm and then a temporal realm. That would be another duality that we would want to avoid at all costs. Now, there is a distinction involved here, but it's not a difference. It's not an absolute separation. Again, distinction is not separation. Distinctions, you can have distinct things that constitute an indivisible unity, but you can't have absolute separation. Otherwise, it's dualism. So we don't have an absolute separation between an eternal realm and a temporal realm, but we do have a distinction between God as cause and the caused effect or effects of his causing, of his activity. So that's the distinction that exists. That distinction in and of itself does not constitute a duality. Having said that, then, we move from the topic of time and its relationship to timelessness and to ontology, more properly speaking. So, ontology, again, is the study of being. We are told that by, traditionalists, perennialists often, Christians, Abrahamics, Platonists, even certain schools of Vedanta, the so-called Orthodox schools of Vedanta, in their own way. It's not exactly, they don't really use a Platonic vocabulary, but in their own way, there is a cyclical process that we endure which takes us to an end. There is a state that is our natural end, where we strive to, not strive, but we end up in a place that constitutes our end, where there will be no more changing, no more evolving, no more progressing, where we've reached a kind of place of perfection or a state of perfection. And so our time on this earth is just a way of getting back to that state, not just arriving at a destination, but that destination is getting back to an original state, kind of like our preternatural state or primordial state. And which is why in many Vedantic schools it is taught that, and even in Tantra, which I reject this idea, that the individual will lose his individuality and get reabsorbed back into this undifferentiated oneness. And so there's a state that we attain to, or we arrive back at, that is this kind of frozen state, this perfected state that divides the realm of manifestation from this eternal realm, or the realm of pure divinity. So in my understanding, we have to reject that, because again, that's part of this dualistic thought process that we want to reject at every level. So that's just to kind of work out for you a couple of implications of acknowledging and embracing the logos of Heraclitus as he understands it. What I want to do next is talk about the significance of Trinity, the concept of Trinity, not a trinity of persons per Christianity, but why at a very basic metaphysical level, trinities are so important for metaphysics, and why they have been so important historically worldwide. And how that relates to the metaphysical worldview I've been elaborating on and explicating. And so we'll talk about something that I'll break down in very simple terms. We will talk about something called the topological metaphor. which is a topic that a guy named Dr. Joseph Farrell gets into, if any of you are familiar with him. He's got a number of very fascinating books. He's into physics. He's into all sorts of things, metaphysics, science, conspiracy, lots of stuff. And he discusses this in his trilogy on the Great Pyramid and in other places as well, where he discusses alchemical issues and the esoteric. But we're going to get into that next, and I'm going to break that down real simply, and we'll talk about how I believe that issue creates problems in his mind, and we're going to explain why I don't think it creates problems, or at least not the ones that he believes it creates. All right, so have a good day, guys.